Welcome back to another episode of our podcast, and I am delighted to be joined by the colourful and the amazing Vicky Campbell. How are you doing, Vicky?
I'm really well, thank you. Lovely to be here.
Oh, fabulous stuff. Now, me and Vicky met, so Vicky and I met when we were at a disrupt event. Was it in Birmingham?
It was indeed, yeah.
Yeah, and we both had the pleasure of gracing the stage, which was lovely. But I'd been secretly stalking Vicky via LinkedIn, and it was amazing to get to meet her in person, and even more amazing to have you on the podcast. So massive welcome, lovely to meet you.
Bless you, and that's very kind, and I'll pay you later.
So rather than have a particular kind of structure, what I thought would be nice is just to kind of canter through a few topics that are interesting to us, really, which hopefully are interesting to our listeners as well. And then just have a free-flowing conversation. So the first thing to start off with, though, is tell our listeners a little bit more about you and why I think you're so fabulous.
Amazing. So I think sometimes it's the colour that stands out for me. So on LinkedIn, I have a beautiful array of loveliness, and what I try and do is share really authentic stories about my life. But not only that, it's linked back to some kind of HR theme or topic that's going on in the world, where I can bring some level of love and light to it. So I'm a HR professional by trade, been in the FTSE 100, 250 space for the last 20 years. I know I don't look it. But I, as well as being a coach and mentor and business partner and all these lovely, lovely titles and things, I'm a human first. So one thing I hope stands out about me is that I really love to connect with people, and all people of all varieties. So in doing that, that's led me to the HR profession. That's why I'm so passionate about all things HR and wanting to do good in the world. And yeah, if that stands out and floats your boat, then we are definitely part of the same tribe.
Love that. All right. Okay, so let's just start talking about some topics that are interesting right now. So DEI, obviously a lot of us in the HR space are looking at the things that are happening in America in particular, and kind of hopefully all frowning and not being very happy about it. Is there anything in particular around DEI that you think would be useful for us to have a bit of a chat about, or even just that space about what's going on in America, I suppose?
Yeah, do you know what? I'm sad. I'm sad to watch the news. It makes me really depressed. You know, the thing that is X has been exited from my social media platforms. For instance, like, I genuinely don't want to be force fed somebody else's view of the world. I want all the information, and then I can make my own view. And that's what I think when I think of D&I. It's not a three-letter acronym. It is a genuine movement of connecting all people in a really fair and equitable way. And I think it's that word equity that stands out for me, that's getting a bit lost.
Really?
We talk about diversity, we talk about inclusion, but the equity part is obviously where the magic happens, isn't it? Because we're coming from different
Oh,
life stages, opportunity, all that good stuff. And I think a really good thing for us to be able to talk about is, how do we keep it on the agenda? How do we actually continue to help people not feel bored anymore? And that's a really crude way of putting it, but ultimately I think people are going, right, I've ticked the box now. I've put a policy in place, or we've got some things that maybe are pushing the boundaries for us, and therefore we're done. So on to the next thing. And it's like, whoa, actually no, just because you've got a couple of more senior women on your board, or you've made a couple of more provisions for people with physical disability to enter the building, genuinely doesn't mean you're done with D&I. That's not what it is.
oh.
It's going some way towards it, but actually you're not looking at the whole picture. And that's what makes me really sad.
What do you think, and it's quite a big question, but what do you think people can do to make sure that it stays on the agenda in the right way? Because I guess for me, I feel like it kind of, hopefully this isn't going to come across the wrong way, but it shouldn't even really be a thing, right? To me, you should be including every single person, regardless of kind of the walk of life that they come from or the disabilities that they have. If you focus on making sure that everybody belongs and is included, then it shouldn't even, do you know what I mean? It shouldn't even be a thing. But I guess there's a lot of organisations that don't think that way. But then I totally take your point around, how do we make sure that it stays on the agenda? Because you don't want it to be a tick box exercise. You don't want it to be, I've just put this policy in place and great, I've done my job. How do we keep that thing alive?
I think it's having continual rich conversations and courageous conversations. Things like calling it out. So, actually, where you see some behaviour that doesn't sit with your values, that doesn't sit with equitable nature or inclusive environments, actually having the courage and not being fearful of the consequence of speaking up. So it all starts with engagement and creating that environment where people feel psychologically safe in order to feel that they can do what they want to. Do you know one bugbear about this? You know, this phrase that's bandied about a lot that kind of gets me. Bring your whole self to work. In the greatest respect, I don't want to bring my whole self to work. I want to give you what I feel safe enough to bring you at that point. And I
Mm.
get the sentiment. You should feel safe enough to bring all of you, but ultimately,
Yeah.
in work, I have my work hat on. I deliver. I make work friends, colleagues, and so forth. But I also want to save something for me.
Mhm.
So I think as well, it's allowing that balance of connectivity to your people and knowing your people really well, and knowing that by saying bring your whole self to work, am I enforcing something on you that's going to make you feel uncomfortable? Whereas actually, if I'm saying to you, if you're having a 50% day, your 50% is good enough for me. It's about that
Mhm.
being enough, isn't it? Being seen, being heard, feeling enough, psychologically safe, all those great words. If we can engage people in a way that helps them see that whatever it looks like, I'm going to be okay. Hey,
Mm.
we've done our job appropriately. Not always great in HR, right? Because people think HR walk in and people are escorted out of the building. And that's genuinely, hopefully, couldn't be more further than the truth. It's about helping people be the best versions of themselves, whether that's here or somewhere else. Actually, that's kind of irrelevant. It's just helping people feel seen.
No, I love that. Yep. That's a much more eloquent way of putting what I just said. So that's why I wanted to talk to you. Before we came online, we were also talking a little bit about returning to work from maternity leave. So we're both mums. I think I remember seeing pictures of your kids when you did your presentation, as your kids are much smaller than mine. So for those people who don't know, I have 18, soon to be 19-year-old twins. But I remember that period when I went back to work after having kids and just, I mean, the company that I worked for were absolutely brilliant. I wasn't very well because I had two babies. So in the lead up to my maternity leave, they were brilliant as well. But in coming back to work, I was different. You know, like my memory wasn't great. I'd forgotten things. I hadn't been there for getting on for a year, right? And things had moved on in the organisation. Um, I just didn't feel as confident as I had been in the past. And I was in a sales orientated role at the time. And it's kind of not what you need when you're in sales, right? Sales is all about confidence. I know you were talking about your experience of returning from mat leave, and I suppose there's the part that we play as HR professionals in helping people when they return. So tell us, obviously, what you're comfortable with only, but
Sure.
tell us what your experience was of coming back from maternity leave.
Short version is it wasn't great. And I think the details semi irrelevant, right? But I can really resonate with some of what you've said in the sense that you become somebody else. So you've embodied, a new being into the world, regardless of whether it's first or second child. I had 6.5 years between my first and second. They're now 9 and 3. And they're amazing, right? But you lose a little bit of who you are and how you show up in becoming a mom. And again, wouldn't change that for the world. It's a beautiful thing. But when considering a workplace and having experienced it myself, I think certainly some things that we could do to encourage people to feel connected in with the workplace whilst either on maternity leave or returning is just being human is the way I would say it. So it's really simple things. That's staying connected with them. That's remembering their birthday. That's having a conversation and remembering their children's names, acting interested, and just genuinely having a really nice human way about you. And beyond that, it's about some of that practicalities, right? So if it is keep in touch days, if there are team meetings, if there's bits and bobs, it's not about the pressure. It's not about laying it on, if you don't come, the world has ended vibes. It's just encouragement. It's saying, this is available to you. If you've got availability, awesome. If you haven't, not the end of the world. I'll keep you up to speed. I'll drop you an email about it, whatever it is. But just so people feel like they've got a choice in the matter. In terms of my experience, I didn't have a lot of keep in touch days first time round and had all the keep in touch days the second time round. And again, I think it's because first time round returning, found it quite different because things had moved on so vastly, that I'm not sure there was any level of, I don't know, compensation, is that the right word? Or appreciation for the fact I'd been out for so long. So the thought behind my return felt limited. And this is me at the height of my career at one stage. So like smashing targets, doing extremely well, outperforming, beautiful things. So going off, and then returning to a workplace that isn't necessarily ready for your return or has given you as much thought as you would have hoped in that scenario was disappointing. So when I went then my second child, it then became a bit harder because I think all of those memories from time number one come back. And then it's about people pleasing nature of, okay, so I now need to be a million miles an hour. I was finding myself working some ridiculous hours to keep up with all of the change and so forth. And what you want in those moments is recognition of your effort. What you want in those moments is connection with the new version of you. What you want is someone who's interested. So if I would speak to any workplace now, as part of my partnering roles, it's very much about that human touch, that connection, that asking them what they need, because actually my needs could be very different to your needs, could be very different to the next person. I'm actually neurodiverse, so I have ADHD, and actually, if you look at any level of research into neurodiversity, neurodiverse people particularly struggle with the period of maternity and returning to the workplace in the sense that the overstimulation of who we are and how we show up can manifest in a whole heap of bunch of ways. And again, it's about educating ourselves as employers, as HR, to be able to receive people, whether they are neurodiverse or otherwise, back from a period of absence. So whether that's long-term sick or maternity, it's about all of those provisions rather than, if I take you back to old school, a risk assessment document. It's got a checklist on it. Have I asked them this question? Have they filled out that form? Have I done a return to work? And so forth. That all the peripheral stuff was absolutely done. Did I feel held? Did I feel cared for in a way that I would want to be cared for? Unfortunately not. And that's a shame. I'm sharing this out with you and your beautiful listeners today, Trish, because there's so many people that I've spoken to that have had that experience. And I think it's really important that we call it out, we say it for what it is. This is not about running anybody down. Maybe people don't have the tools, maybe they're not educated, maybe they don't understand. So it's not about finger wagging, it's about an acceptance of the fact that some people's returnship experience isn't great. How can we learn from that and do better next time?
And also, the thing I was thinking is, when you work in HR, what we kind of get drummed into us is making sure that we look after maternity returners, which is correct and we should. But also, I don't think we do the best job of looking after our fathers, right? Like there are dads who go away, they have new babies, and that's a whole experience too. Obviously, I don't know how to don't have that experience personally, but I wonder if we, as a profession, need to start thinking a little bit more about that too.
So I hear it.
Yeah.
My husband, again, any standard workplace, I mean, we're getting better in a lot of organisations. I was in one in particular who had the same paternity leave as maternity leave provision, which was beautiful. And, why would you allow for more for the mother than the father? Now, I'm going to spark a debate there for sure. Sorry, listeners. But at the same time, the feelings of being a new parent is really hard, isn't it? So, and more if we're thinking about this
Yeah.
equity point, as parents now, we're sharing the load more and more and more, and some of those traditional values and views might have slipped away, with the mother getting up in the night and father's snoring away vibes, that in a lot of households is a thing of the past, and therefore absolutely there is a something that we need to do to have more empathy, warmth, kindness, compassion for our fathers as well. And two moms, two dads, of whatever the version of parenthood can look so vastly different
Um,
these days. And I think we just need to get a little bit more forward thinking and ask the people what they need. If we started there, I think everything would work out just fine.
Now, I've been talking quite a bit about AI and how it can bring real benefits to us in HR, but equally being careful of making sure that we don't automate everything, because I see some of those administration processes that AI could quite easily do for us are actually quite useful tools to help the new kind of generation of HR people coming into businesses learn. So
Mm.
tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are on innovation. I mean, do you think I'm right? I might be wrong. Happy to be told I'm wrong. And tell us a bit more about what you think we can be doing in terms of HR process, innovation, maybe that kind of test and fail culture piece as well.
I think there's a big question there, right? So I think we have to allow it to understand how useful it's going to be. So allowing a space
Mm.
for it is going to be really important. So whether that's your co-pilots and your chat GPTs and all the bits and bobs that can kind of do things at rocket speed. But I agree with you from the sense that the human touch, the hearing the tone of voice. So if I was in a call centre, I don't know, I'm a tech expert, I'm in a call centre, I can hear somebody, but I hear the vulnerability, I hear the tone, I hear the emotion in the voice, and I can sense things as a human, and my instincts are telling me to take the call in a certain way, or to seek support, or to give different advice and guidance as a HR professional. You know, that you can't buy in AI, right? Being able to
Mm.
connect with those nuances of all of us as humans. If you've met one person with a particular way, you've met one person in a particular way, right? So every one of us are so unique. I don't believe AI can give you that. What I can absolutely connect with in terms of what we need to do and is recognise that there's a place for speed. Some of the things that are really clunky and are, I don't know about you, but I am not a techie by any stretch. You can probably hear this in the way that I'm hovering over my words right now. And and the reason why I say it is that actually the thought of an Excel spreadsheet gives me the shivers. But actually, if I can ask an AI tool to deliver me XYZ and I can explain what I need, but I can't see it because that's not the way my brain works, and they can help me on that journey, boom. I've had the creativity. Where does the
Mm.
innovation sit? Is it in my original idea? Is it the way it's been presented? For us to debate, right? But actually, if we work hand in glove with it, as the way I've just described, we all win. So actually, we get the speed
Mm.
to help us with effective kind of the way that we communicate and what it is that we're able to deliver. But to your point there about testing and failing, I think it's the biggest single thing that's going to enable us, tech companies, spaces where we are utilising AI more and more. If we don't allow for failure, we're never going to get to innovation. So actually creating an active space, old school language used to be like think tanks. Let's all get around the table.
Mm.
Thinking about my old school trainer days, you'd get your post-its and your coloured pens and your flip charts, and you'd be round the room and you'd be brainstorming ideas and you'd be going for it. If we take the equivalent of that and using AI and technology of, well, actually, if we wrote that piece of code that enabled us to take us into that place, wow, we're solving a customer's problem. They didn't even know they needed solving. So they were going after this, and we're able to take it to that next level. But it fails 3 times before you get to that fourth gem that is going to be like absolutely shamadama ding dong. Enable total recreation of what it is that we do, and this lightning speed we can now do it. Wow. What a magical idea that is. So does it scare me slightly? A little bit. Do I think I'm going to be out of job as a result of it? No. I I totally hear the newbies coming in though. So if we take away some of that
Mm.
space and some of the stuff that you might see as administration, that was the training ground and the grit and the good stuff that enabled us to then have the experience that we now have, that we can partner clients really effectively because we've been in the
Mm.
weeds, in the mud, recognizing all the bits and bobs and so forth, and you can't buy any of that. So I think hand in glove partnership is
Mm.
the answer. And yeah, test and learn, test and fail in order to test and learn, and then innovation comes.
On that failure piece, I think that's a really, really interesting point, because I guess my personal feeling was failure, and I guess what I have to tell myself every time I fail or every time I do something that I feel is wrong, is actually I haven't failed. It's just gained an opportunity to learn, right? And I've even learned not to do that again, or that there's some learning and there's something positive in it. That's what I keep trying to tell myself.
Mm.
Why do you? Again, it's quite a big question, but why do you think we are so kind of adverse in a business sense to failing? 'Cause I mean, a lot of the companies that I've worked in have got those lovely test and fail environments where it is fine and it is learning and they see it in the way that I've just described. But then
Mm.
I've also worked in other companies or other companies where that's just a no, you don't do that. If you say that, then, it's some sort of weakness, that kind of thing. And it breeds just not a great culture.
Mm.
But why do you think we're so adverse to that? Why do we see it so negatively when actually that's the thing that can propel us forwards?
I think it comes back to this fear again. So it's the fear of getting it wrong, the fear of failure in that totality of word, and ultimately failure costs money. So failure equals time equals money. And as a
Mhm.
business, if you're constantly looking at that P&L bottom line, what is it that we're bringing in, and you are sales driven, go 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 mentality, and you're building no, I would describe it in really crudely, if you're building no fat, if you're building no extra, if you're building no extra bit of seasoning in and around the edges to enable you to move forward, that's going to hold you back, right? Because like you say, then you start to build cultures. You will have recognized this phrase, I'm sure. Do what you've always done, because why fix what's not broken? Yeah. And you get to that place because you're not allowing any extra wiggle room and time. But that's where things like DEI creeps in, because then actually, if you're building some time and you're building some space for new, different creativity, all the different ideas from people of different walks of life, backgrounds, and so forth to come into those spaces and fill those gaps, that's when you're like, wow, didn't even think about it like that. That's amazing, brilliant. Here's a, I don't know. You can even pocket a budget when you're thinking about your holistic budget as companies to go, here's our test and learn budget. We're just going to give it a go vibe. And actually doing that's going to enable. Do we really think that Steve Jobs got it right all the time? Do we really
Mm.
think? How many Apple phones were made before Apple became Apple? And do you ever see Apple
Yeah.
have a sale? No. Why do Apple
Mhm.
have no sale? Because they're a sought after commodity all of the time. So why do they even need that in the world? But they will have focus groups. They will have try this and give us all your feedback and so forth before they then put things out into the world. They will have tested it within its nth degree because they know this is going to be the next lick that everyone's going to be shouting after in the world. So I just think it needs new creative ideas. So D&I and this test and learn environment coming together, I think, is where the magic happens. But ultimately, short answer to your question, money. We don't do it because it costs us money. And reputation,
Mm.
who wants to
Mm.
be known as being the one that got it wrong?
Yeah, and then it just makes me think of other examples, right? Like, I know Elon Musk probably isn't a lot of people's most favorite person on the planet. Definitely not mine.
Mm.
But I wouldn't say things like the Cybertruck have been a success, right? That's just not worked. You can't even have it in Europe because it's too big. All that kind of thing. He's been talking about the Roadster for God knows how many years. But yeah, we we see kind of failure on a large scale, I guess, on a regular basis. We just don't necessarily assimilate it, right? No one thinks Elon Musk is a failure in terms of
Yeah.
the cars that he's delivered in lots of other ways, obviously.
Mm. You're right.
But Tesla is a very successful company, right? And for a good reason, that they try things. If they don't work, they move on to something else. 4-day working week, then I feel like this has kind of almost gone off the boil a little bit lately. I think it's been replaced by everything that we're seeing with the Employment Rights Act, although it might fall into the Employment Rights Act. How do you feel about that? Do you think that's a workable thing for us in the UK?
So 99.999% of me says yes. Okay. So I'm coming at it from a really selfish place. So I've done a 4-day week in a variance of different guises for the last 9 years. So ever since I had children and I returned, I compressed hours. I have been part-time and reduced salary to accommodate. So therefore been truly part-time. I have done an amalgamation of different patterns to make that work. And I've had great success from it. It's also burnt me out. So I've got both experiences in different stages of across that 9 years. And I currently slightly compress, but not fully. That allows me my 5th day. It kind of depends what and how it's delivered, right? So I think there's something about if we genuinely want to get the best out of people, explaining and having them experience what it is to, say, compress across 4 days instead of fitting all that we do into a 5-day week. We need to just be really honest about what that may look like, because I'm quite conscious of having been in the corporate world for many years. I am yet to meet anybody that does the hours in which they're contracted to do and deliver. And I think the expectation, not necessarily from the company, but from the individuals, and I can speak on that personally myself, that's like, right, okay, I now need to get all of the work that I was doing before compressed into this time. So therefore, I need to be go, a million miles an hour. I need to be checking my phone at 7 o'clock in the morning. I then need to be on and in the office. On my commute home, I now need to be scrolling. I need to be answering emails. I then need to be mom, parent, whatever it is, all the caring responsibilities at home. I need to get them to bed. And now I need to be on all the way through to 10, 11 o'clock at night. And that might be some people's natural reality over 5 days a week, let alone moving this into 4. Where's the headspace? Where's the thinking time? Where's the allowing for the richness of thought and creativity and all the things that we've just talked about, enabling space in order for us to be innovative? That kind of goes, because now you're in the treadmill of go, 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 go. And you could say, okay, well, I get that on my 5th day. Again, having experienced it or witnessed it from others, that day will get full, and it will get full really quickly, because you might fill it with a passion project, beautiful. You might fill it with something that's going to support your well-being, amazing. But for that 4 days, are you going to be potentially so burnt out across that 4 that by the time you get to 5, you're just recharging the batteries, ready to go again on the Monday? So that's my nervousness. Albeit I've seen it work really well, but I've seen it work well when you're allowed to be closer to your contracted hours. And I know that sounds a little bit, because it's hard to kind of sit in that, because I know that that's not, naturally where people sit, especially, more senior you get. I think the expectation of you being on all of the time creeps up a little bit more. We just need to allow for the pause. If you could allow the pause, I think it could work.
I think that also ties in quite nicely with the right to switch off, right? Like, so the government were talking about bringing that in, not specifically as a piece of law, but there were going to be some guidelines around it. It's still kind of floating around, but they seem to have got off the boil a little bit. But it does really tie in quite nicely with what you're saying, right? Having that ability to stop. But equally, you and I know, when you're in one of those high pressure jobs, if you've got the ability to switch off, brilliant. But it's almost, where do we stop putting that pressure on people where they feel like they have to keep going? I don't think I've ever worked in a role where I felt pressured to, or, a specific person has told me you have to keep working these hours, but to be able to do a good job and to level that I think is acceptable. I've always ended up working, additional hours and sometimes ridiculous hours. But yeah, so sorry, I'm not really sure I was done with that, but I think it just, that right to switch off piece probably dovetails quite nicely with the 4-day working week, right? If they are going to bring something like that in, maybe dovetail it would be right. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I think because you can't have one without the other, and that's why I mentioned it in what I described, because I think that there's educating people, and I completely agree with you. No one individual has ever said to me, I expect you to be. If anything, it's an encouragement that goes, I've seen you on at ridiculous o'clock, or you sent me that email, even though you've delayed it, so that I get it at 9 o'clock in the morning. I can still see that you sent it to me at 11 o'clock last night. What's going on? And that's the right conversation for someone
Yeah.
to be having with me. But then it was almost like oh,
Hmm.
I get it, but I hadn't finished that piece of work, and if I don't do that, then I can't sleep because I'm thinking about that thing.
Mm.
So it's then a you thing. So then how can we work on self to enable us to have the confidence to go, do you know what? I've closed my laptop. It's me time. It's family time now. It's, partner time once the kids have gone to bed, or I've just want an early night and a bath. Whatever it is, I just want to be me. I want to sing in my local choir. I
Mm.
want to go for a run, whatever it is, and allow the pause. But because we're so go 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 as a society, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that we're
Yeah.
necessarily psychologically ready for that. But yeah, we've got a big hill to climb there. But if we can get there and support each other through it, we can get there. I'd say.
Do you sing in a local choir?
I do. So, oh my God, yeah. I've sang at Abbey Road Studios. I sing at my local town hall, and yeah, all sorts of performances. I've got a number of performances coming up, and Trish, 4 weeks
What?
ago, I started my own Wellbeing choir. So it's called Feel Good Choir. Yeah, Feel Good Pop Voices Choir. It's on a Friday morning. I actually did it this morning, 10 till 11:30 at my local church. It's not a church-based choir, that's just the venue that we hire. To be clear, we
Hmm.
sing all sorts of popular songs. It's not voice parts, it's genuinely a builder community, sing along in front of a projector of some fabulous words across all of the decades, all different genres, and we have a really good time. So yeah, I do it because it makes me feel good. And the point of starting my own choir was about actually, if I want to create some change in the world, why not be the change? So yeah, if we could all do our own little bit to build communities and help people feel good, then hey, I'm role modeling it for my children.
I bloody love you. You're awesome. It's
I
just
took a pay cut.
amazing.
I went 4 days a week, so I could help others feel good, and I genuinely mean that in the nicest respect. Like that's why I share it because, like, let's be the change we want to see, and let's encourage
Yeah.
others to. I mean, some of the people that come to my choir and have started to like, I'm the only person that they see in a day, or they've met a bunch of people that they're having a cup of tea and a chat with in the interval that they would have never ever been exposed to in their world. So if I can do that
Mm.
for others, that fills my cup because it makes me feel good that I'm enabling that to happen. And then they build connections for the future. So yeah, let's get off our bums and do something to create good in the world.
I love that. That's awesome. Alrighty, so if people want to get hold of you and use your brilliant brain and all of your brilliant talents, how can they get hold of you? What's the best way for them to contact you?
I have a LinkedIn profile, again, that's very pink and fabulous. So by all means, DM me and we can have a conversation. And I've got an Instagram page called Advanced Populous. I chose Advanced Populous because populous being the Latin meaning of people. Advancing people is the aim of the game for me. So yes, I'm a mental health first aider. I'm a HR business partner. As I've just described, I'm now a choir leader, which is pretty awesome. I do one-to-one coaching, I do group stuff, and in most recent months have been doing confidence coaching too. So helping people stand in their power, be their authentic selves, and essentially just be awesome. So hence the very first time that we ever saw each other was at a speaking engagement at Disrupt HR, where I got up and quite honestly, you were laughing and howling 1 minute and then were uber serious about the topic in the next. All about authenticity and helping yourself be the true authentic version of you. That's what I'm about, and that's how you can get in contact with me.
I love that. Like, look, I could talk to you all day, but I'm going to have to wrap things up because I'm sure you've got other things to do. But thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really, really appreciate it. And hopefully all the listeners are benefiting from your amazing knowledge. I'm sure we'll see each other again soon. We have to make that happen if not.
Yeah, love that. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, great to have the conversation. And yeah, many more to come.